When I talk about traveling while Black Generation X, it's because I want everybody to understand that literally our generation had to learn how to travel in the midst between two worlds. One, the world that our parents went through, where literally they had to make us aware of dangers that were out there and that were visible and clear and present. And then our generation and future generations, where we were told effectively that we were free to move and that the dangers weren't there. But in 1987, I learned the hard way that just because you can move freely does not necessarily mean you can move safely. And if you ask me, well, what do you mean? Well, I had to find a way to catch a ride home from Orlando, Florida to Tampa, Florida in uniform because of my situation. 18 years of age. Let's get into it. I had to go from Orlando, Florida to Tampa, Florida without a car, without money, and sadly enough, without a lot of common sense. All right, so let's set this up accordingly. We're talking the fall of 1987. I was a freshman at the University of Tampa. I was also a brand new Army Reservist. I had just completed my Army Reserve training in terms of I did basic training as well as my advanced individual training as a combat engineer. And I was here in Tampa, Florida to go to college. Now, keep in mind, I'm attending a private school, limited funds, very little availability of scholarships and opportunities at the school. So I had to be very strategic about how I was going to finance my school. And one of the reasons why I joined the reserve is because there was a $4,000 bonus that if you were able to complete your basic and AIT and you were at a reserve unit, then you could receive this bonus. But I didn't realize that there was a catch to it. It had to be a unit that was consistent with your military occupational skill, meaning your MOS. I was a combat engineer, 12 Bravo, but I didn't realize it until I got to Tampa that there were no reserve units in Tampa that were combat engineers. The nearest one was Orlando. So in order for me to even see this $4,000, I had to drill 1 weekend of the month at this particular unit. So here I am. In my mind, I'm like, okay, I got to get that $4,000. So I told myself going forward, I got a plan to make this work. And it was a dumb plan, but it was a plan nonetheless. So you got to keep in mind, I didn't have a car. I didn't have a bus fare. I didn't have any money. And I didn't have the sense to call my mom and let her know what was going on. Because in my mind, I told myself, I joined the reserve. I went through basic. I went through AIT. I can get this bonus. All I got to do is go over here. I didn't ask the question how many drills I had to go to, because in essence, I probably could have went over there, drilled a certain number of times, got the bonus, and then transferred over to the National Guard. My whole focus was, I got to get over to Orlando and make this thing happen. And once I get it started, I'll figure out a rhythm. But the first thing I had to do was I had to get there. So I found out when they were drilling. So they had a drill that was coming up. And one of my buddies who actually came to college with me agreed to drive me over there. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with geography, Tampa to Orlando is about 80 miles. And so where the unit was probably an extra couple of miles. So it's like 83 miles from the college campus to this unit. Got it, no problem. So my homeboy came over and he dropped me off. Now, mind you, most drills, you go there for a day, you come home, and then you come back the next day. So you usually drill on a Saturday and Sunday. Now, be mindful of this reality. I did not know what I was going to do because I figured in my mind, well, they might let me stay in the building and so forth. I don't mind sleeping on the floor and in a sleeping bag. In my mind, I'm like, as long as I get there, I'm good. Because the other thing they do when you're there and you're drilling, they typically feed you. Usually you get lunch because you get there in the morning, you leave in the afternoon and so forth. Whatever the case may be. But it didn't matter. I had it under control. I was going. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, my boy's going to drop me off on Saturday. He can come back on Sunday to get me. It's all good in the neighborhood. I'm straight. However, there was one little problem. They were actually going to be out in the field, and I didn't have any gear. So what they ended up doing was they left me there for the weekend, which was fine. Again, I didn't mind. I had meals ready to eat that they provided me. They gave me a sleeping bag. We straight. So here's a situation where I'm getting there Saturday morning, and they get back middle of the day Saturday, and they're getting ready to check out, and they're anxious to go home. One little problem. I'm still there. Now, my buddy, I told him to come pick me up at about 4 o'clock. Well, as fate would have it, 4 o'clock came. He was nowhere to be seen. Now, remember, this was a day pre-cell phone, pre-pager, pre-internet, everything. So the only way I could reach him was I had to call his dorm room, call the floor, call a payphone, have somebody pick up the payphone, go to his room, get him to come to the phone to find out where he was. As fate would have it, I called a couple of times. No one was there. Like somebody pick up the phone and they were like, yeah, he's not in this room. We don't know where he is. The people at the reserve units are getting a little agitated because they can't leave while I'm there. So at 18 years of age, in my mind, I'm thinking, you know what? Not a problem. I got a simple solution. I will walk. Yep, that's right. You heard it. I'm going to walk. Remember what I said at the beginning of the video? How many miles? 83 miles? I'm going to walk. Now, mind you, I wasn't planning on walking to Tampa. What I told myself was that I remember the route he took to get there. And for those of you who don't know, he had taken I-4 and got off on the Colonial Boulevard exit. And that exit I knew. So I figured I'd just get on that road, start walking till I got to I-4, and that he would see me because I'm still in my uniform walking. Now, you got to remember what's going through my head. I had just completed advanced individual training a couple of months prior to going to college. During the time I was there, I did a 25-mile forced road march with an M16, a rucksack, load-bearing equipment, and a Kevlar helmet. And I was about 145 pounds. And I did that walk with no problem. So I had convinced myself, man, this ain't nothing but a thing, dog. So I had convinced myself that making this walk wouldn't be a problem. And besides, I wasn't walking back to campus. I was just walking so he could see me. My friend could see me when he came down the way. So I started walking, and there was one harsh reality. Keep in mind, I'm wearing my military uniform. I don't have any money. And I hadn't eaten since the last MRE, which was at lunchtime. So I was starving. So the first thing I did was I stopped at a gas station, and I literally did the one thing you shouldn't do. I begged. That's right, no shame, because I was hungry. And so I told the shop owner my situation. I'm a reservist. I'm a college student in Tampa. I'm trying to get back. I don't know where my friend is. If I sweep the back room or something like that, could you just give me some candy? That's all I want. Just something that would keep my energy up and just keep me going. So he basically says, grab something and get out. And so I went and got me a bag of M&Ms, grabbed the M&Ms, and I proceeded to walk. Now, mind you, keep in mind, in my mind, I told myself, and this is probably when I started the walk, I started around 5 o'clock or so. I told myself, all I got to do is walk. My buddy will see me, and then he'll pick me up. Now, unbeknownst to me, he missed the stop. So what happened was he drove past it. And so there was no way he was going to see me. So in this particular instance, I'm walking a particular direction thinking he's going to see me. He literally took a whole other road and had to route around to find where the place was. So I found out from him later that when he got there, I had been gone probably about almost an hour at that particular point. So now he's like, oh crap, where is he? So at this particular point, by the time I've walked a good distance, I am now approaching I-4. I haven't seen him. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And before you say it, 18 years old, I could have called my mom. Didn't want to do it because why? I'm grown. I got this. I got this, man. So I proceed to do the dumb thing. What do you think I did? That's right. I started to walk on I-4. Not my smartest thought process. Again, I'm thinking in my mind, he's going to see me. If nothing else, he's going to see me coming. He's going to see me going. He's going to see me walking down the side of the road. And when he sees me, he'll recognize me. And then I'll catch a ride. No problem. So again, I'm walking. And I still remember as I'm walking down the road, I have someone pull over to the side. And it was a pickup truck. And the guy was like, oh, we always want to support our service members. Where are you going? Going to Tampa. Not going that far. So, okay. So I get in the back. He drives probably about a good 5-10 miles. And he says, okay, I have to let you out here because we're getting off. Okay. Again, keep walking. I'm just chilling. Again, I'm still looking behind me, thinking, okay, my buddy's going to see me at some particular point. I'm still walking. And then at this particular point, this bus comes up. It's like a bus full of workers and everything. And the people are like, hey, we always support our members of the armed forces. What's going on? I told myself, well, I'm trying to get back to school. Well, we'll be happy to drive you. Where are you going? I said, Tampa. Not going that far. So the next thing I know, they get on the ride. I'm riding with them for about 2 or 3 miles, and then they drop me off. But now I'm in a difficult spot because by this point in time, starting to get dark. It's about 7:30, maybe 8 o'clock at night, something like that. It's starting to get dark because it took me a long while to get from all the spots from deep in Orlando all the way up here. We're now no longer in Orange County. We're in Osceola County. And we're at the point where you've got a variety of resorts that are there. And for those of you who don't know, once you get to the resort area, you're starting to head out of the tourist area. So I had a difficult situation to deal with at that time. So now, remember, I'm in Osceola County, or probably the outskirts of Orange County. I am now away from downtown Orlando. I'm in these resorts area. I'm wearing my uniform. I have been pretty much walking and catching rides here and there. And I'm like, I gotta try one more time. There's no way he would have just left me out here. So I did something dumb again. Again, not thinking. I literally go back off to the side of the road, low crawl, joy of having BEUs on, low crawl underneath the fence, go to the lobby of this 4-star, 5-star resort. And I can remember the look on their face when I walked in. They were like, can we help you? And I said, listen, I just need to call. And I gave, I had to spill down. I said, hey, I need to call my homeboy. He's in college. I just need to make sure he's on his way because I don't have a ride home. I don't know how I'm going to get back to campus. So I called. And interestingly enough, as I was calling, I heard them say, somebody should get security. I'm thinking, what am I doing? I'm literally on the phone. You literally said it was okay. But what I didn't realize is I was on private property and I shouldn't have been there. But again, I'm struggling. So I called. They are like, no, he's not in the room. We don't know where he's at. I hang up the phone. And so in my mind, I had now made the decision. We're on the outskirts. I have only one option. Walk. That's it. That's the only option I got left. Because again, you're probably like, you ain't called your mother. Still haven't called my mother yet. Never crossed my mind. So at this particular point in time, I remember when the security guards came around the corner, there was a couple of guys in suits, and they were like, can we help you? I said, nope, I'm good. And they were like, what are you doing here? I said, I just made a call. They said it was okay, and I'm leaving. They're like, where are you going? I said, I'm going the same way I came. And it was funny because I turned the corner, and I guess they were like, same way you came, and they looked, and they saw me. And of course, it's dark. I'm wearing camouflage, and I'm black. And I'm fading off to an area where there's no lights. And so, of course, I get out there. I'm looking for the barbed wire fence, crawl underneath, low crawl. That's right. Low crawl under the barbed wire fence. Yes, dumb. I know. And I get up to the side of the road and I proceeded to walk. I don't know how long I was walking, but I then was realizing at this particular point, as I had basically went past the last resort, which I believe is like Interstate 55. Exit 55. So at this particular point in time, I am heading out of Osceola County, heading into Polk County on the side of the road about 8-something at night, knowing in reality probably about another 60 miles. But I had resolved myself. I had done and this is how crazy it was. I had done the math in my head of how long it would take me. Like I had told myself that if it's going to take me, this number of hours, like I had thought I was going to probably get there like 4 in the afternoon the next day. I don't know what was going through my mind, but that's what happened. And so as fate would have it, I'm walking and this one couple sees me and they pull over. And it just so happened to be another gentleman who was a member of the National Guard, Army National Guard. And he was like, are you a guard? He said, are you a guard or reserves? I said, I'm reserves. He said, what are you doing out here? And I told him that I was drilling in Orlando. I'm a student in Tampa at the University of Tampa. My ride, I don't know where they are, but I got to get back to school. And so I thought I would connect with him along the way, but unfortunately I didn't. And so he and his girlfriend were like, so you were going to walk back to Tampa? And in my mind, I'm telling myself, I had no choice. I don't have any money. I have nobody, I'm still, keep in mind, this is like the first couple of months of getting to college. So I don't know anybody. So I don't know anybody other than my buddy who I cannot locate. So as fate would have it, they turned to me and they said, listen, we got you. We're actually going to Tampa. And so I got in the back seat, and of course I'm feeling bad because I'm funky. I've low crawled underneath the fence. I've been sweating and so forth. I know I smell like death be damned, and I even apologized. I said, I know I don't smell very savory. And I remember the guy turns to me and he says, listen, we're fellow brothers in arms here, veterans. We look after each other. You're good. We got you all the way back in. Finally, I arrived back at the University of Tampa. And it's interesting because when I got there, I think I got there about like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. At this particular point in time, it's funny because I just kind of walked in the door. And I remember when I came in the door, my roommates and a couple of young ladies who were across the hall, I guess the big buzz was, where was Tony? Because I guess my buddy had actually gone into Orlando, couldn't find me, came back and couldn't find me, was calling the room up there, were like, do you know where he is? I don't know where he is. So they were worried. They didn't know what to do. And I could, to this day, I always remember this one young lady, nice Italian young lady. She came up and gave me the biggest hug as soon as I walked through the door. And I'm thinking, I smell like butt crack and doo-doo brown. Why are you hugging me? But she was like, no one knew where you were. And we didn't know how to reach you. We didn't know if you were dead or anything. Nobody knew where you were. And so I said, let me jump and take a shower and I'll explain what happened. And so it was funny because eventually I ended up catching up with my buddy later on. But what I told them was everything I just told you guys about the decision making and so forth that I had. And the reality is looking back, I was very fortunate because I made a lot of dumb decisions. I made a lot of dumb decisions because I had convinced myself that I was now living in an environment. I was a young adult. I got myself into this situation. My responsibility was to get myself out of this situation. And so in my mind, I had told myself I had to find an answer to this situation. But the reality is that this situation could have gone so badly. I mean, think about all the different things along the way. Stopping at the store, the crawling underneath the fence to the resort, the getting picked up by different cars of people who were strangers. I was very fortunate that I had so many positive situations occur during that made it possible for me to get back, because each one could have easily turned sideways. You know, it's interesting because when I went off to college, my mom and I didn't have a conversation about how I should move when I got in this new space. It didn't dawn on me that I needed to have that, because in my mind, even though I was free to move, I didn't think about the fact that I was still vulnerable. I was fortunate in so many ways that the circumstances that allowed me to move worked out in my favor, because I was moving in a space where I had no money, I had no means of communications, and I had resolved myself to the reality that I had put myself in a situation like this. So I was my responsibility to get myself out of it. But this could have easily gone very badly. This was the reality of Black Generation X and Generation X as a whole. I'm not saying they were all dumb as me. Not trying to be funny. But there was a level of independence and resilience that we had because we had been conditioned to be independent. We had been conditioned to believe that we could move in spaces because we had grown up moving independently. I had watched my mom do so many things independently on her own, and I had convinced myself I could do the same. And in that particular instance, it worked out. And yes, I did tell my mother about it later. And yes, she was highly pissed. But the reality is that was the reality of what it meant to be Generation X. Not always appreciating the fact that you could still be vulnerable, even when you were moving through spaces where you thought you were free. Thanks for tuning in as always. Check out my book, Traveling While Black Generation X. And I look forward to your comments. Yes, I know I'm going to get all kind of comments about, man, you were smoking some good crack when you made that move. But let me stress, 18 years old, I was a latchkey kid, thought I could move independently. And in Generation X, that's kind of how we moved independently.